Hello, in this video I will be reviewing the second book in the Divine Cities series, City of Blades. So, spoiler-free review, this book in my opinion is much better than the first book in this series, but it kind of continues in the same vein, similar characters, so we kind of move from one character to another, but it's still kind of the same vibe, and it's a character we knew before, so it's just Mulaghesh from the first book that we move on to, so a slight spoiler I guess, but yeah, so this, it's kind of a similar vibe to the first book, but I think it's just kind of a slightly upgraded, slightly better plot, slightly more interesting main character, and slightly more interesting setting. So yeah, it's basically, in my opinion, just a better book, but still, yeah, the same vibe. So if you like the first one, you'll like this one, and if you didn't like the first one, there's still a good chance you'll like this one. So, getting into it a little bit, I really enjoyed the plot of this book. I think it was a lot stronger than the first book. It was really fun, kind of, so spoilers. It was just kind of fun finding out a bit more about, like, the plot is kind of revealed to you over the course of the thing, so it's once again in a similar vein to the first book, where it's kind of like an investigative sort of thing, where our main character is trying to figure out, what's happened over the course of the book. So some of the stuff has happened before she arrived, and she's trying to figure out what that was, and then she's trying to figure out, like, what's going to happen in the future. So it's kind of like she's just discovering things, and it's quite enjoyable to go along with her on that journey. So it's kind of like a fantasy mystery book almost, and so it kind of has added this, still got the original mystery thing, kind of like a Sherlock Holmes book would have, but it's also got like that additional fantasy side of things where you're learning more about the mysteries of the actual world itself and the magic system and all that. So this book and the series has a very soft magic system, and so, there's not a lot of rules necessarily, but it is fun when you find out some of the rules, or like some of how the magic system is used, so it's quite interesting to kind of, yeah, like I say, you get the double mystery, I guess, which is interesting. And I thought it was a fun reveal who the actual sort of villain was, so to speak. I won't get into that too much just because it is a very big spoiler, but I enjoyed that a lot. So in terms of character, I prefer Mulaghesh as a main character to Shara. I thought that Mulaghesh is very strong as a main character, and I enjoyed her reintroduction into the series, and I enjoyed kind of seeing her do her thing and kind of deal with sort of some of her PTSD. And I think that this book is a really good exploration, a positive, so to speak, exploration of PTSD in kind of a fantasy setting. So, but she's got a lot of issues from her military service. And I think there's certainly some metaphors there being made, or like, to, Vietnam, and maybe to a lesser extent Iraq and Afghanistan, some of those American wars, in terms of civilian casualties and the effects that has on combatants. So I thought that was really interesting, and I guess that takes us into theme, where the theme of this book is very much related to war and conflict, and kind of sort of how these things affect both the people involved, but then also how they reflect onto the nation state that allows them or condones them, and sort of what that means, as in, so for example, we're repeatedly hit with this idea of, this yellow march that she went on, killing lots of people, possibly saved more lives than it took, and actually resulted in perhaps a net good, right? But yet the things that happened during it was like very, very bad. And so what does this sort of mean? So yeah, I thought that was really good. And yeah, just getting back to character, I liked seeing Sigurd. Sigurd is probably my favorite character in the series. So having him back is cool. We got the new introduction of a character of Sigurd's daughter, who I thought was kind of a cool and interesting character. And yeah, I guess I would say that my one problem perhaps with this book is that one of the villains, because it's kind of a two-villain thing. There's like the main villain, and then there's the military officer in charge of Fort Finadesha, who's kind of a sort of a sub-villain in a sense that he wants the bad stuff to happen in order to kind of bring him glory and stuff. And I felt that perhaps he seemed a little bit over the top, a little bit overly irrational. And I definitely see what the author was trying to go for here, which he was trying to show how, if you do all these things for your country and your country doesn't give anything back to you, you can start to feel a bit sort of jaded and a bit uncared for, and like no one cares for you, and therefore you're looking for someone to bring you glory. And I could see where they were going with it, or where he was going with it, but I just felt that it wasn't quite. It did kind of seem a little bit out of nowhere, just how Biswal, that's his name, just how dedicated willing Biswal was to just randomly die. But other than that, I really thought that this was a really, really fantastic book. I really enjoyed. I just have to say, I really enjoyed kind of a world building. I enjoyed just seeing. Sort of the consequences of Shire being in power and the continent and all these things. I just felt that I felt very drawn in and immersed, and I really had a great time. A great time with this book, and I think that it might be the strongest entry in the series actually. And it was just really interesting to kind of I will say, actually, I'm giving it a lot of praise, and it is a fantastic book, and I really enjoyed it. But another criticism I would have is just that the ending felt a little bit anticlimactic, where all these soldiers come back. It's basically the apocalypse, and then she's like, actually, don't do that. And then the soldiers are all like, okay, we won't. And once again, I guess it's just a slight example of the theme being taken a little bit, perhaps over the plot, in the sense that the theme of the story, like I said, is about war and what it means to be a soldier and what it means to be a combatant, right? And I guess the overall message of this book, perhaps, is, in terms of war and in terms of being a soldier, your job is to not kill rather than to kill. And so that is kind of how the book ends, where she's like, well, you don't actually count as soldiers because, you actually are just here to kill and you don't actually count in my definition, which is fine. But in terms of the actual plot, it did make it fall a little bit flat because it almost felt like a Deus Ex Machina type of thing. And literally, because she is a divinity. But yeah, overall, I'd still strongly recommend this book. I think it's a really, really enjoyable book. It's got strong characters, an enjoyable kind of plot where you discover and learn things. And I just really think that... and yeah, like I said, the setting is cool, the magic system is cool, the just kind of a fantasy world in general is really interesting and cool, and it's kind of fun to see technology sort of start moving, like for example, rifles are coming in where it used to be muskets and this sort of thing. So yeah, I really enjoyed this book, and yeah, I'd strongly recommend it. So yeah, have a great day.